Hello and welcome. This is a lore video breakdown of the dragons in the new Crusader Kings 3 A Game of Thrones update, where they have included dragons and dragon events into the game. But if you're new to the Game of Thrones or just new to the mod or don't really know much about the background, you probably want to know who these dragons are, why they're so important, why you see people in the chat or comments or anything like that saying, whoa, he's got the black dread, or oh my gosh, Craxus is so cool, things like that. Well, you want to know a little bit more about it. So let's go over it. Let's start first with the number one. Let's go with the black dread here. This is Balerion the Black Dread, the only dragon that has seen the Doom of Valyria at a young age. The Doom of Valyria was the old dragon empire where the Targaryens were from. Basically, through blood magic and rituals and stuff like that, their dragon empire was collapsed and destroyed, and the Targaryens fled to Dragonstone. With it, Balerion was one of them. They've had plenty of dragon riders like Denys the Dreamer, Elena, Ares, of course Aegon the Conqueror. Now that's where our story begins. Aegon the Conqueror took Balerion, which was the largest dragon in history. Over 200 years old, his size is massive. He is a tyrannic leviathan, bloodthirsty, imperious, cooperative, and calculating. This guy will destroy any tower, any keep that you send him on. He is well known for the destruction of Harrenhal during the Aegon's conquest, whenever he united all these lands. He destroyed this huge castle here, Harrenhal. It was the largest castle in all of Westeros. Big pyres, 3 big pyres that just lit in flame, completely destroyed him. Balerion destroyed the entirety of House Horror, and with it, he united the Riverlands against the Ironborn. Balerion at this current time, at 82 AC, is stuck in the Dragon Pit. No one's really had him since Princess Era of Dragonstone rode him, and when she stole him, she took him to Valyria, or Balerion took her to Valyria, and she ended up getting these weird fireworms destroying her body and significantly wounding Balerion. That's what the story is currently right now at 82 AC. In the Rogue Prince start, which is a little bit later, Balerion has died due to his wounds that he took during his flee, during his time in Valyria. That's what Balerion's up to. He is the strongest dragon and the most powerful dragon. He also created the Iron Throne through his breath. So this throne that we see here in the court, he created this. With his breath, he forged all these swords together after the blacksmiths fitted them. His breath was the kindling for the throne. Then, of course, we have Vhagar. Vhagar is the second oldest dragon. This was Visenya Targaryen's dragon. This is the second strongest dragon in all of Westeros. She helped destroy the Reach and the Westerlings army at the battle here. Basically destroying all of them, destroying the Gardener line here. Not Redgrass Field, that is a different one. I believe it's over. So let me just find it here. It's here somewhere. Hold on, I have to do a grand tour to find it. I want to find the exact spot that it's in. There it is. Field of Fire. That's what it was. Yeah, right here in the Field of Fire, Vhagar, Meraxes, and Balerion all destroyed the armies there. Meraxes was another dragon. It was the daughter of Aegon's main wife. That would be Rhaenys of Dragonstone. And it was killed in Dorne whenever they tried to siege Dorne. Balerion, Vhagar, and Meraxes all tried to fly to Dorne and take it out, but Meraxes got cut up in Hellholt here and was destroyed, shot through the eye with a scorpion. That's what happened to Meraxes here. Yeah, shot through by Lord Uther of Brimstone. Of course, they killed him for that. He was the weakest of the dragons out of all three. Vhagar does eventually survive the wars out here, and Balerion passes, making Vhagar the strongest dragon, especially in the Rogue Prince start. The strongest dragon, and the most powerful and oldest, because Vhagar, without spoilers, is a very significant player in the Dance with Dragons. Think of it like he's the Fat Man in terms of, or she is the Fat Man in terms of nuclear weapons. She is total destruction. Riverland suffers pretty badly over her. Next we have Dreamfire, and that is, I believe that becomes the dragon of Helena Targaryen, Aegon's sister. And it is more of a pretty calm dragon. It's a very beautiful silver-crested dragon. It was hatched during the reign of Aegon Targaryen. And it was very chill dragon. It didn't really do much of anything. It relaxed in Fair Isle whenever the Targaryens were moving a lot. Whenever it had a previous dragon rider, Rhaena, who basically was King Aenys's believed to be the heir. She wanted to be heir for a long time. But whenever Jaris took over, her entire, basically her life was pretty much shattered. She had friends, all abandoned her. When she died, finally died, Dreamfire sort of just went back to King's Landing and stayed in King's Landing there. But it was a big threat, actually. Dreamfire did have a significant threat against Jaris as well, because whenever his sister was getting angry and upset, she actually threatened to destroy Storm's End with Dreamfire. It was a pretty cautious time, thinking that an early dance could actually be started between Jaris and his older sister. Potentially she was a very vengeful and arrogant woman, wanted vengeance on her mother whenever she finally gave birth to Jocelyn of Dragonstone. So that was a pretty serious situation there with her. But whenever she died, Dreamfire just returned back. Dreamfire, of course, just stayed in the Red Keep until the Dance of Dragons. Now we have Vermithor, the Bronze Fury. This guy's actually pretty sick. He is King Jaehaerys' dragon, and he was the most imperious of the dragons, I believe, in my opinion. He was the one that held sway the most. He grew the fastest, I believe, out of the early dragon hatchlings that came during Aegon's time. He became a very strong, very giant dragon. In time, at 14 years old, Jaehaerys basically had his dragon. He rode his dragon whenever he was young. But this dragon is very famous. Being the old king's dragon, there's a certain weight to him, and a certain almost a right to rule type situation with this guy. Of course, Vermithor takes place, his main actions take place during the dance, and without spoilers, one of the dragon seeds does claim him, making Hugh Hammer one of the biggest threats in all of Westeros, depending on who he fights for. So Vermithor is a very intimidating foe, and actually probably could have taken Vhagar in a one-on-one if they both were to fight. Vhagar was actually kind of scared. The reason why they didn't really go to Dragonstone and attack was, one, because of the ships and all the dragons that they had, but Vermithor was the big threat against Vhagar during the Dance of Dragons. Caraxes as well. Now we speak of Silverwing. Silverwing is Good Queen Alisane's dragon. Very kind, cooperative, accepting dragon. It's really plays off with his or with her rider. Alisane was a very kind and generous queen, and her dragon took after it. Her dragon was a very docile and friendly to strangers, coiling with Vermithor, which became her mate. So the love that Jaris had with Alisane transferred to their dragon, which many believe is the Targaryen blood, maybe their dragon dreams, or perhaps some sort of warging potential that the Targaryens had. Think of it like a mind link almost. The dragons and Targaryens are one and the same. If there's a very angry and brutal king, his dragon most likely ended up being angry and brutal, like Balerion the Black Dread and Maegor Targaryen, who he also used Balerion the Black Dread. So I'm going back here, I'm going back and forth with my lore here. There's so much stuff Balerion the Black Dread has. If you're ever wondering why the Faith doesn't really care about the intermarriage between brother and sister anymore, is because one, Maegor the Cruel, during his wars against the Faith were like, okay, you can't be marrying like this. We can't have. They actually rose up against in Aenys time. They were upset that, you can't intermarriage between brother and sister. That's messed up. So Maegor decided to burn them all and kill most of the Fifth of the Seven. They ended up forming some sort of paramilitary group, rising up, called the Warrior Sons and the Poor Fellows, basically fighting against Maegor the Cruel. And Maegor the Cruel used the Black Dread to basically fight and kill as many people as he could during his rule. That's why he's known as the Cruel. The wars ended when Jaris ended up creating a new form of law, Targaryen right of, I believe it's just, he basically told them like, hey, listen, Targaryens are actually closer to gods than to men, so we can do whatever we want. And he found a very lackey faith of the Seven Pope, basically, to say, yep, he's all good. Of course, they were all afraid of dragons, and Balerion the Black Dread was still around at the time, so they did not want to keep up the fighting. Back to Silverwing. Silverwing was, of course, very docile and peaceful with the dragons. They ended up, they flew a lot with Vermithor, and they helped take out Maegor the Cruel's armies into submission. They don't really fight. Just seeing these two dragons together was enough to freak out the warriors there. Silverwing is also known because of its big travel to the north, in White Harbor and Winterfell. There's a theory that the Silverwing laid eggs at Winterfell, and maybe we'll see it in Winds of Winter. Who knows? There is a big theory that for some reason the dragons would not go past the wall. There's some sort of magic there. Silverwing was able to experience that and find out why the dragons refused to go past the wall. Silverwing was the reason why we know about that. Then we have Sheepstealer. This is a wild dragon flying around in Dragonstone. It is known to voraciously devour sheep. It is a blight upon the lands of Dragonstone, I would say, for the peasants. It's not the it's a very ugly looking dragon. It was not very not very too keen on people. Luckily, one of my favorite characters, Nettles, ends up taking him, and Sheepstealer and her basically hang out in the Vale for till past the dance. Some people think that maybe Sheepstealer could still be alive, but it's most likely it was just killed in the mountain clans. Well, Nettles is definitely dead, but Sheepstealer could perhaps be in the mountains somewhere. So we'll see. A lot of the burned men and painted dogs worship, in the mountain clans here, worship the dragons, or worship this fire witch that could be the dragon or could be Nettles. So we'll see. And the burned mid prove themselves with fire, so perhaps Sheepstealer in the time of Robert's Rebellion, in the time of Game of Thrones, could still be alive, hanging out. Maybe the mountain clansmen have been protecting it. Perhaps. Maybe not. And then of course we have Caraxes, the Bloodworm. The Bloodworm is a really interesting dragon rider. It is Aemon's dragon, which eventually becomes Daemon the Rogue Prince's dragon. It is a calculating, bloodthirsty, aggressive dragon. Caraxes is known to be very aggressive, like his rider, the Rogue Prince. Very formidable in battle. Is a very old and cunning dragon at the time of the dance. It is very spindly, but it is very fast. So it's not the biggest dragon, but it uses speed and agility to beat it out. Of course, you can see him. Actually, it's the dragon we see the most in the House of the Dragon TV show, with that long, spindly neck. Think of it like a bloodworm, like a snake almost. He basically, this dragon I think has seen more combat than any other dragon, considering Vhagar. I think even more so than Vhagar in terms of warfare, how he practices out in Pentos and the Free Cities and the Stepstones like that. At least most recently he's known. I'd say Vhagar is about his equal. So it's a very interesting time for the dance. And equally as interesting, we have the Cannibal. Cannibal, I think, is my favorite dragon. We never find out what happens to this dragon. Some people say that he is roaming around on Skagos by the time Game of Thrones is happening. He is a tyrannic leviathan, a cannibal. Of course, he eats his own kin. He eats tons of dragon eggs. Other dragons fear him. People tried to tame him, but he just ended up eating them every single time. A solitary, bloodthirsty, and voracious. He is a feral dragon. This is the only feral dragon known. He is pretty old. Some people think that he is Meraxes' kid. Okay. Yeah, we're not sure how old it is, I think, in the story. We do have more, few more dragons that he's killed out. He was, the wild dragon is said to have hatched when the old king was still young. So, the Cannibal is a very old, very powerful dragon. If you ever tried to tame this guy, good luck. You'd have to be a pretty bold guy to try to tame the Cannibal. During the dragon seeding, people tried to tame him, but none of the dragon seeds who attempted to tame the wild dragons were foolish enough to tame Cannibal due to his reputation. But of course, that doesn't mean Cannibal didn't come to them. Cannibal ate silver dennies when he tried to take Sheepstealer, and Cannibal came to eat all of them and his sons. So yeah, Cannibal is a very, very serious dragon. I would try to stay away. Let's check out what these guys look like during the Rogue Prince scenario. Alright, in the time of the Rogue Prince start, this is a few years after, almost 30 years after, or even 40 years after the old king has passed. We are, actually no. Anyways, the old king has passed, with it Balerion has passed. Viserys was actually his last dragon rider for Balerion the Black Tread. If you look at, where was it? If you look at Caraxes here, grandparent, there we go, pow, pow, and check out Balerion the Black Tread. He died of old age and died of his badly wound. He died at 251 years old. Vhagar now is the oldest dragon in this scenario. We did miss Meleys the Red Queen, which is Princess Rhaenys of Dragonstone. This is actually a very important dragon. Very swift, restrained, accepting, and imperious dragon. Again, just like her bonded dragon here. This dragon actually is one of the important ones at the dance. The second strongest next to Vermithor, I believe, in the sake of power that it brings. Vermithor, of course, is the strongest out of the Rhaenyra's dragons, the blacks here. It was the reason why the sea snake was so powerful and was so respected as well, along with his ships, of course, and his navy. The sea snake did mirror Rhaenys, and he felt like she should have been queen instead of, well, Viserys, because she would be proper right there, because he would be descendant from Aemon's line right there, but instead they went through Balin the Brave's line here. So the sea snake, if you want, in this scenario, try to claim her kingdom on the dragon. She still has a press claim. You could start an early dance with her riding Melees and your son riding Sea Smoke. That is Laenor Valyrian's dragon. But we'll get to that. Syrax, of course, is Rhaenyra's dragon. It is slow and lumbering, unable to keep with the peers in the same size and grace. Not stupid slow in terms of that way, but very hulking monster. So not like the Bloodworm. Syrax is pretty slow. It gets caught up in the dragon pit a lot. Very noble dragon, voracious and bloodthirsty though. So the dragon will seek vengeance if its throne is taken in this scenario. So if you gotta think smart. If you do have a son with Alicent here, Rhaenyra might not want to share that throne with anybody. Then we have Sea Smoke, a very solitary supporting dragon. It is trained. It is Laenor Valyrian's dragon. Laenor Valyrian is Corlys' heir. So if you want to start some sort of Valyrian dynasty revival and maybe take out your own kingdom or something, or conquer the Iron Throne yourself with your dragon, you can have Sea Smoke. Sea Smoke, of course, is a one of the dragons that the blacks have, but is very young, so you're gonna have to watch out because combat effectiveness is not very well, and its dragon size is not very well. But Sea Smoke in the lore and the dance takes place a lot during the battles here in the Reach. The battles that it sees are pretty brutal, and as a young dragon, it is pretty interesting to see what happens to him. Grey Ghost is one of the wild dragons that are out on Dragonstone, claimed by one of the dragon seeds. Grey Ghost is very interesting because it does take place in a few battles in the Dance with Dragons. Try not to spoil too much future stuff for the Iron Throne in the game, but lore-wise, think of all these dragons have just started and they're being trained to fight. Sunfire, of course, is the most beautiful dragon. Becomes Aegon the Second's dragon. Whenever Viserys has a son, this is the one that he claims. It is a majestic and beautiful dragon with its scales, impulsive and bloodthirsty, and voracious. It is a not voracious, bloodthirsty, imperious, and impulsive. Yep, it is a more of a excited. Think of it like a lab, like a golden retriever almost type dragon. Very kind to its owner, but will defend itself if it needs to. If it needs be. If there was a show dog type dragon, this is the show dog dragon. This was known as the most beautiful dragon in all of Westeros, and it had the deepest bond of any Targaryen with Aegon the Second and his dragon, at least during the dance. Aegon the Second and Sunfire's bond was well known in Westeros at the time. Then we have Tessarion. That is another dragon that is super young, but does cause some destruction in the Reach. This dragon is actually pretty cool. Darren the Daring's dragon, I believe. It is a very interesting dragon that you can have. Of course, you can always edit your that's barbershop. The dragons that are in the Rogue Prince scenario are very young, but potentially could end up being the change of your game. So really hyped. Glad you guys were able to watch all this. If you have any more questions about the dragons, please say so in the comments. There are ways to kill dragons. Say if you're Dorn, you can have you can learn your innovation of scorpions, which I think they have here somewhere. But yeah, they basically can shoot down dragons, so you gotta watch out, especially if you have a young dragon. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Peace.